Unraveling the nightmare of the Isdal woman mystery. The valley was silent that morning. Cold mist crawled between the black cliffs of Isdalen, a lonely place outside Bergen, Norway. A father and his two daughters were hiking through the rough trail when they smelled something strange in the air. It was sharp, metallic, and mixed with the faint scent of burned flesh. They followed it. What they found would haunt the country for decades. A woman's body lay among the rocks, her clothes burned, her skin charred beyond recognition. Nearby, scattered like pieces of a puzzle, were strange objects: a broken umbrella, a half-melted plastic bottle, and a few empty sleeping pill packets. Police arrived within hours. They had never seen anything like it. The corpse was positioned oddly, as if someone had tried to arrange it. No ID, no witnesses, no one missing from the area. The autopsy revealed signs of death by poisoning before the fire. Her fingerprints were burned off. Labels were cut from her clothes. Someone had erased her identity with precision. Days later, detectives found 2 suitcases at Bergen railway station. Inside were wigs, cosmetics, clothes with tags removed, a coded note, and prescription bottles labeled in different languages. There were no personal photos, no letters, no fingerprints, just a trace of mystery left behind. Interpol was alerted. Witnesses came forward. She had stayed in several hotels across Norway and Europe under 9 different names. Always alone. Always with a fake passport. She spoke French, German, and broken English. She paid in cash. Each name led nowhere. Every clue ended in silence. Newspapers called her the Isdal woman. Theories spread fast: spy, smuggler, runaway, assassin, but no one could prove anything. The police built a facial sketch from descriptions given by hotel staff. Dark hair, elegant features, well-dressed, calm. A woman who looked like she belonged everywhere and nowhere at once. Then came the coded note. It wasn't a letter, but a string of numbers and letters written in a notebook. Experts cracked it partly. It was a record of her travels, dates, and places, all linked to hotel stays. But it told nothing about who she really was. Years passed. Evidence was stored away. The mystery grew cold. Half a century later, scientists reopened the case using modern forensic tools. They studied traces of her teeth and bones. Isotope analysis showed she wasn't Norwegian at all, likely from Central or Eastern Europe. Her dental work was sophisticated, suggesting wealth or access to foreign medical care. DNA results hinted she might have had relatives in Germany or France, but no match was ever found. Some believe she was a spy during the Cold War, carrying secrets across borders. Others think she might have been running from something, or someone. The truth lies buried somewhere in the frozen soil of Isdalen. A woman with no name, no past, and no justice. Yet every time the wind howls through the valley, people say they can still feel her presence, watching, waiting, like a ghost of a story that refuses to fade. Winter returned to the valley. 50 years after her death, the mystery refused to die. A new generation of investigators reopened the case, determined to give her a name. They began with what the 1970 police never had: technology that could read secrets from bones. Forensic experts exhumed her remains from the unmarked grave where she had rested for half a century. DNA samples were taken, her teeth were scanned. Each layer of enamel told a part of her story. The results shocked everyone. Her childhood had been spent in Eastern Europe. Her teenage years showed chemical traces from France. Her adulthood pointed to Italy. She had moved across Europe like a ghost, leaving no roots behind. The scientists also reconstructed her face with digital imaging. When the model appeared on the screen, it felt like she was alive again. Dark eyes, sharp cheekbones, the face of someone who knew how to disappear. But the deeper they searched, the darker the trail became. One retired Norwegian officer came forward with a forgotten diary. It contained his notes from the 1970 investigation. He had written about men who followed her, cars parked outside hotels, and calls from military officials asking for updates. He believed the case was silenced on purpose. That theory echoed what many suspected. She was part of something larger than herself. Witness reports resurfaced. One hotel receptionist remembered her meeting a foreign man in a gray suit. Another traveler claimed to have seen her near a military testing site days before her death. A fisherman said he spotted her near the fjord, watching the sea for hours, as if waiting for someone who never came. The spy theory grew stronger. During the Cold War, Norway was a key listening post for NATO. The Isdal woman could have been a courier, carrying coded information between embassies. Her coded note and fake identities fit the pattern. Yet, there was no proof, only speculation and silence. Then came a new discovery. In 2017, a private investigator obtained declassified intelligence files. Hidden among them was a report describing an unidentified woman traveling under multiple aliases, last seen in Scandinavia in 1970. Her physical description matched perfectly. The file ended abruptly, marked Classified Foreign Operations. That document was never meant to be seen. Historians and journalists revisited every lead. They traced her handwriting, her perfume brand, her clothing material. Everything pointed to someone who lived with purpose, discipline, and fear. She knew she was being watched. A chilling detail emerged from her autopsy. Her stomach contained over 50 sleeping pills. The fire that followed may have been staged. The investigators debated whether it was suicide or murder made to look like one. The scene was too precise, too deliberate. The toxicology report suggested she was alive when the fire started. If that was true, someone wanted her to vanish completely. Modern technology tried to fill the gaps. Her DNA was uploaded to international genealogy databases. No family match. No identity. It was as if she had been erased from existence long before her death. One forensic artist imagined what her final days looked like: a hotel room, a half-packed suitcase, a coded notebook on the bed, a knock at the door, a man in a coat, a quiet conversation that ended in fear. The next day, she was gone. The modern investigators didn't find her killer, but they found her humanity. Behind the wigs and codes was a woman alone, carrying a secret too heavy to live with. A local journalist once said, "She wasn't a spy. She was a message." Perhaps she was. A message from a time when borders divided lives and silence protected the guilty. Today, people visit her grave in Bergen. Someone leaves flowers every year. No one knows who. Maybe a friend from the past. Maybe a stranger who refuses to forget. The plaque on her grave reads only 2 words: the unknown woman. Yet her story outlived the men who tried to bury it. In the end, she became more than a mystery. She became a mirror, showing how truth disappears when power decides it should. And when the mist rolls down the Isdal Valley at dusk, locals still say the air smells faintly of smoke, and a shadow moves among the rocks. They call her the woman who never stopped searching for herself. The night was cold, silent, and heavy with fog. High above Bergen, the Isdal Valley lay wrapped in darkness. Beneath it, history waited, unsolved, unspoken, unfinished. A team of documentary filmmakers arrived to shoot the story once more. Their lights cut through the mist, tracing the same path the hikers had taken 50 years earlier. The lead producer, Eric, carried copies of old police photos, burned remains, the coded note, the sketches of a woman who had lived many lives but left behind none. He whispered, "Every time we come here, it feels like she's still close." The crew laughed nervously, but no one disagreed. When they began recording, something strange happened. Their microphones picked up faint static, like whispering. The sound came and went with the wind. One of the sound engineers swore he heard a voice saying a word: fleur, French for flower. It was one of the words found in the coded note decades ago. The investigation had returned, but this time, the valley was answering. Eric decided to go deeper. He tracked down the few surviving witnesses from 1970. One was a retired hotel clerk named Marit. Her memory was fading, but when she saw the reconstructed image of the woman, her eyes filled with tears. She was polite, Marit said softly, but she was scared, always looking behind her. Marit remembered one more detail. The woman carried a small black notebook, wrapped in paper. She never let it out of sight. When she checked out, The notebook was gone. For decades, no one had found it. Until now, a collector from Denmark contacted Eric's team. He claimed to own a notebook purchased from an old police auction. Inside were pages filled with handwriting, numbers, symbols, fragments of sentences in French and German. Some matched the original coded note. A new pattern emerged. It wasn't just travel dates, it was coordinates. Locations across Europe. Some pointed to Cold War communication points, others to abandoned military research sites. The notebook didn't just track movement, it tracked meetings. Someone had been keeping score. Digital analysts spent weeks decoding the symbols. A phrase repeated often, solstice. They believed it was the name of an operation or a person. The last entry read, "Meet at Bergen, 23 November, package secured." She died 2 days later. Eric's film took on a new tone. This was no longer a mystery. It was an unfinished story of espionage and betrayal. But still, no proof of who killed her, or why she was silenced. Then, one night during editing, an encrypted file arrived in Eric's inbox. No sender, just coordinates. He followed them. It led to a remote storage facility outside Oslo. Inside an unmarked locker, he found a sealed envelope with one photograph. It showed the Isdal woman standing near a government building, alive, smiling, and not alone. Next to her stood a man in a gray suit, his face blurred by motion. On the back of the photo, written in neat handwriting, were 2 words, "Forgive me." No one ever discovered who sent it. When the documentary aired, it reignited the world's fascination with her case. Viewers from across Europe claimed to recognize her face. A neighbor in France, a guest in Belgium, a woman seen boarding a train in Rome. But none of those stories connected. The truth stayed hidden. And then, one final test changed everything. A fragment of her tooth was reanalyzed with updated genetic mapping. The results matched a family line in Slovenia. A woman named Anja Kos, born in 1936, had disappeared during the Cold War. Her sister, now in her 90s, provided a DNA sample. It matched. The Isdal woman had a name. But when police contacted the sister, she refused to speak publicly. She said, "If she died there, it means she chose to." No further questions were answered. Eric ended his film with a single line spoken over the final scene, the valley covered in fog, the wind whispering through the rocks. She was not a ghost. She was a warning. The screen faded to black, and as the credits rolled, viewers around the world felt the same chill, the kind that comes when a secret finally breathes again. The Isdal woman had lived in silence, but in death, she made the world listen. Winter clung to the Isdal Valley once again. Snow settled over the rocks like a white shroud, softening a landscape that had witnessed too much. For 50 years, her story had been told by strangers. But now, with her name found, the silence around her began to speak. Her name was Anja Kos. Born in Slovenia, 1936. Raised in a world fractured by war. Her father was a translator, her mother a teacher. Both vanished when the borders shifted after 1945. Records showed she worked briefly as an interpreter for foreign trade offices in the 1960s. Then, her trace faded. That was the official story. The real one lived between lines no one dared to write. Anja had been recruited. Her linguistic skills, her ability to blend in, her calm manner, all perfect for a courier's life during the Cold War. She moved from country to country under new names, carrying secrets that belonged to men who never showed their faces. But something happened in 1970. A message intercepted. An order changed. An operation called Solstice went wrong. Letters found in the Slovenian archives hinted at betrayal within her circle. One of her handlers was exposed as a double agent. Names of couriers were being erased permanently. Those who knew too much disappeared quietly, without noise, without trace. Anja knew what was coming. In her final weeks, she traveled across Norway, staying in small hotels, changing her name each time. Witnesses remembered her asking about trains to Bergen, about quiet routes into the mountains. They thought she was a tourist. She was planning her last move. The coded notebook found years later confirmed it. The last pages weren't directions to a meeting. They were instructions for escape, coordinates that led to isolated crossings where she might vanish without help, without pursuit. But someone got there first. Police evidence showed 2 sets of footprints near the site. One was hers. The other vanished in the mud near the rocks where the ground burned hottest. Whoever came with her either left before the fire or never left at all. The theory shifted again. It wasn't suicide. It was containment. The poison, the fire, the careful destruction of identity, all designed to end a life without leaving a trace. She had become too dangerous to exist. Yet something about her final hours remained human. She left her rings neatly placed beside her body. She carried no weapon. She didn't hide. It was as if she knew her death was coming and accepted it, as part of a duty she couldn't escape. For years, Norwegians visiting the valley left flowers and candles. They didn't know her name, but they felt her story. Now they whisper it. Anja Kos. Her sister, when asked if she wanted the body returned home, refused gently. She chose her ground, she said. Let her rest where she stopped running. The Bergen police placed a new marker on her grave. Anja Kos, 1936-1970. The Isdal woman. Never forgotten. Her story reshaped Cold War history. Journalists uncovered at least 3 other unsolved deaths across Europe that shared her methods. Erased identities, burned remains, coded notes, each connected to operations buried under decades of classified silence. But in Norway, the Isdal case became more than a mystery. It became a warning about how easily a life can vanish when truth is inconvenient. Today, hikers still pass through the valley. Some say they feel watched. Others say they hear faint footsteps behind them, stopping when they turn. The air smells faintly of smoke. At sunset, the snow glows orange over the black stones where she was found. Her story ends there, not in fear but in quiet defiance. She had carried secrets across borders, obeyed orders from unseen men, and finally chose silence over betrayal. In a world built on lies, her death became the last honest thing she ever did. And when the wind cuts through the Isdal Valley, it still carries her name. A whisper that reminds the living how fragile truth can be. The Isdal woman never disappeared. She simply became part of the land that kept her secret.